Hi there, my name's Dave, and in this video I'm going to share with you my techniques and tips on how I achieved this drawing of Renaya. So we were looking at from the outline, doing the blocking stage, and then to the finished portrait. So let's take a look. Here we have Renaya. So we're going to continue with where we left off, which was the outline. And here we go. So when you first start, it always seems to be a bit messy, very grainy. This is where you've got to persevere and don't get sort of uptight. Just keep relaxed and know that everything will smooth out and get better the more layers you put on. This is just a blocking, just to get rid of the white paper. So we're getting the extreme highlight, which is on the pupil of the eye, and the darkest part, which is the pupil. So then you've got the extremes, and then in between is the midtones and so on. So what we're using for there is a HB, H, 2H and 4H. So I'm using a combination of those pencils just to get the basic shape and form in before we start with the details. So this is just a blocking stage, as I mentioned, so just got to relax and know that it will improve. You know, it's just keeping patient. So I'm using the Tombow Mono Zero eraser, which will help with modelling. So what we're doing with that, we can sort of lessen the values with the rubber, and it models the actual texture of the skin, because the skin's not smooth. It's got loads of different subtleties in it, so this eraser is really important. You know, I won't be able to do what I do without it. It's an amazing tool, so I really suggest you get one of these. I will leave a list of materials in the description below, so take a look at that afterwards. So yeah, just basically getting all these shades together, just working through it. No point in putting all the details in at this stage, because we need to get the overall tones in first, all the values. So we'll go over that later. So rather than using blenders, I just keep cross-hatching the stroke of the pencil, which actually leaves little white little sort of white areas, speckles, which helps with the skin texture. That's why I do this. For me, it makes this skin feel alive and fresh. So that's how I do it anyway. But again, using that Mono Zero eraser, which really helps again with the texture, so just carry on doing that. Always keeping the pencil sharp as well, so you know, if it starts to get a little bit grainy, just sharpen your pencil up. That's a good thing to do. Using a very light pencil for the teeth, probably like a 6H, something like that. Not too, so it's very easily erased then. If there's any problems, you can easily change it. So really using a light pencil to start with that. And once you get the area right, then you can go in with a darker one. Always checking the alignment as well, so making sure everything's correct. what you tend to do is actually you're looking at the reference image as a whole, not really blown up details. So what I tend to do is having the reference image quite small, and so basically it's just so I can see all the values at once. So I'm not really concerned at this point of putting any fine detail in. It's just a matter of getting that sort of feel and the energy of the subject correct. So the smaller the image you actually copying from, the better it would be. You tend to see, if you like, the aura or the energy of the person. Getting those really blacks in is really important. It really makes the picture start to pop, and it gives you an idea then of the rest of the values. That's why getting the hair in now, that will change the face tones completely. What you think is probably correct won't be. You probably need to be a bit darker in areas. Once you get the black hair in, the shadows of the hair, it's surprising how other things seem lighter, so then you have to go over it again. So that's one of the reasons I don't put detail in straight away, because there's no point. You're going to get them values correct first. So the pencil I'm using for the darks of the hair is in my set of Mars Lumograph pencils, the darkest ones, which are like 6, 7 and 8B, they are actually a carbon and graphite mix, which are not so shiny as the normal ones. You can get quite a dense black with those, so I suggest you get those, some of those pencils if you haven't got them. They're really good. What you could get, there's a tin they actually do, which is Mars Lumograph Black. I'll leave all this detail in the actual description, but they are really good to use. It's worth experimenting with. So yeah, I mean, that makes a difference as well, because it makes the picture pop more. The darker the darks, the better it'd be. So suggest having a look at those. If you're finding value in this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. And again, using that eraser to sort of model things, it's really good. And there's the big eraser there, which is called a Pentel Click eraser, which I'll leave in the description, a note of. That's really good for big areas like that. It just reduces the actual values. You can sort of press it up and down, and it just lifts the value up a little bit. So they're really good to have in your kit. Now one thing with the hair as well, don't get all sorts of stressed out trying to make every hair the same as a reference. It's about how it feels. So feel it rather than trying to draw every hair. It'll just drive you nuts if you try and do that. There's no point. It'll look all stiff anyway if you try to do that. Just relax and just flow with it. It's about the feel of it rather than exactly the same as what the reference is. Now we've got the blacks in, it really makes a difference. You can see what that there's certain areas in the face now needs to be darker. That's what I'm putting in now, the darker shades. It's amazing how it changes things. And we're putting these darks in now in the face. It gives it that more of a 3D look. It's so important to get the values correct. And a good tip, really, as a tip for you, is when you're trying to see the values in your reference image, squint your eyes. You'll be surprised how that makes it a lot easier. So by squinting, you see the values, the range of values, more clearly. I use a range of 9 values. According to Google, the human eye sees 1 million shades, so. But you have to simplify it down to 9. That's what I do. I'll go through that. I'll do a little video about values and how to break it down into 9 values. I think that's the Flemish way of doing it. So we'll have a look at that later on. Now for the clothes, I'm using the 4H, 6H, 2H, very, very light pencils, because it's a very soft pink in the colour. So it's just a case of being very subtle with this, really. And again, when you first do it, it looks all wrong. So until you get rid of that white paper, it all looks wrong. So you have to sort of tone the paper away first, and then start layering the different values on top of that. Always interesting to do a little bit of lettering as well on clothes. It's quite interesting to create. Gives you a bit of a change. I'm not too worried about getting every detail in this as well. It's just a suggestion. The detail's got to be in the eyes. So the more detail I put in, I put all the detail in the eyes, and then everything else is more subtle, because it's the eyes that wants to grab you. So that's where the details and the contrast. So your eye actually naturally goes towards that. So that's the key thing as well, is to find out where you want people to look and make sure that's really contrast and sharp. The rest of it is just suggestion.